Sorry about that. Part 3. In the novel L'Amoureuse Initiation by the Lithuanian poet Ovid de Milos, there is a passage in which the leading character, a cynically sincere figure who has forgotten nothing, is reminiscing. But these are not childhood memories. On the contrary, the entire work is set in the experienced present, and we are shown him in his palace, where he leads a fervent existence, setting aside certain corners to which he often repairs. As, for instance, that little dark corner between the fireplace and the oak chest, where you used to hide when she went away. It should be noted that he did not wait for her in the vast palace, but in a corner reserved for gloomy waiting, where he could digest his anger at her faithlessness. With your bottom resting on the hard, cold marble floor, your blank gaze turned toward the make-believe sky of the ceiling, and in your hands a book with uncut pages, you spent many a delightfully sad hour there waiting, like the poor blockhead that you were. What a refuge for ambivalence! Here is a dreamer who is happy to be sad, content to be alone, waiting. In his corner he can meditate upon life and death as befits the heights of passion. To live and die in this sentimental corner, you told yourself. Yes, indeed, to live and die there. Why not then, Monsieur de Pinamont, you who so love dark, dusty little corners? And all who live in corners will come to confer life upon this image, multiplying the shades of being that characterize the corner dweller. For to great dreamers of corners and holes, nothing is ever empty. The dialectics of full and empty only correspond to two geometrical non-realities. The function of inhabiting constitutes the link between full and empty. A living creature fills an empty refuge. Images inhabit, and all corners are haunted, if not inhabited. Milos's corner dreamer, M. de Pinamont, in his, on the whole, spacious den between the chest and the fireplace, resumes his reminiscing. Here the meditative spider lives powerful and happy. The past shrivels up and all but disappears, like a frightened old ladybug. Ironic, cunning ladybug, here the past can be recaptured and yet remain hidden from the learned spectacles of collectors of pretty pretties. Under the poet's magic wand, one cannot help becoming a ladybug, or gathering memories and dreams under the elytra of this roundest of animals. But how well our little earth ball of red life hid its ability to fly! It escapes from its sphere as from a hole. Perhaps up in the blue sky it, too, experiences sudden awareness that it is itself, like the little girl in Richard Hughes's novel. And we find it hard to stop dreaming before the spectacle of this little shell that suddenly starts to fly. Exchanges of animal and human life become frequent in Milos's novel. His cynical dreamer goes on, page 242, here, in this corner between the chest and the fireplace. You find countless remedies for boredom, and an infinite number of things that deserve to occupy your mind for all time. The musty odor of the minutes of 3 centuries ago, the secret meaning of the hieroglyphics in fly dung, the triumphal arc of that mouse hole, the frayed tapestry against which your round, bony back is lolling, the gnawing noise of your heels on the marble, the powdery sound of your sneeze, and finally the soul of all this old dust from corners forgotten by brooms. But except for such corner readers as ourselves, who will continue to read all about this dustiness? Someone like Michel Leiris, perhaps, who tells of having picked the dust from the cracks in the corner with a pin. But I repeat, not everyone will admit to these things. Yet, in such daydreams as these, the past is very old indeed, for they reach into the great domain of the undated past. Kind of reminds me of the, um, never mind, um, never mind. By allowing the imagination to wander through the crypts of memory without realizing it, we recapture the bemused life of the tiniest burrows in the house, in the almost animal shelter of dreams. But against this distant background, childhood returns. In his meditation corner, Milose's dream questions his conscience. The past rises to the level of the present, and the dreamer finds himself in tears. Because already as a child, you liked the eaves of chateaux and corners of dusty old libraries, and you read avidly, without understanding a word, falsely learned volumes on the privileges of the Dutch. Ah, you rascal, what delightful hours you used to pass in your rascality in those nostalgia-dredged nooks and corners of the Palazzo Marona. The time you squandered there, trying to get at the heart of things that had their day. With what joy you changed yourself into an old shoe picked out of the gutter, saved from being swept out with the rubbish. Just here, we can come to an abrupt halt, break up the daydream, and lay aside our reading. For who is prepared to go beyond the spider, the ladybug, and the mouse, to a point of identification with things forgotten in a corner? But what kind of daydream is this that can be broken up? And why break it up? For reasons of conscience or good taste, or through disdain for old things? Melose does not break it up. And when, guided by his book, we ourselves dream beyond it, we share his dream of a corner that is the grave of a wooden doll forgotten last century in this corner of the room by some little girl. No doubt one would have to sink into profound daydreaming to be moved by the vast museum of insignificant things. It is impossible to dream of an old house that is not the refuge of old things, its own, or that has been filled with old things as a result of the simple craze of a collector of knickknacks. To restore their soul to corners, it is better to have an old slipper or a doll's head, like those that attract the meditations of Milose's dreamer. The mystery of things, the poet continues, page 243, little sensations of time, great void of eternity. All infinity can be contained in this stone corner between the fireplace and the oak chest. Where are they now, I ask you, all these marvelous, spidery delights of yours, those profound meditations on poor, dead little things? Then, from the depths of his corner, the dreamer remembers all the objects identified with solitude, objects that are memories of solitude and which are betrayed by the mere fact of having been forgotten, abandoned in a corner. Remember the old, old lamp that greeted you from far away, through the window of your thoughts, its panes burned by suns of other years. From the depths of his corner, the dreamer sees an older house, a house in another land, thus making a synthesis of the childhood home and the dream home. The old objects question him. What will the friendly old lamp think of you during the lonely winter nights? What will the other objects think of you, the ones that were so kind, so fraternally kind to you? Was not their obscure fate closely united with your own? Motionless, mute things never forget. Melancholy and despised as they are, we confide in them that which is humblest and least suspected in the depths of ourselves. Page 244. What a call to humility this dreamer heard in his corner! For the corner denies the palace, dust denies marble, and worn objects deny splendor and luxury. The dreamer in his corner wrote off the world in a detailed daydream that destroyed one by one, all the objects in the world. Having crossed the countless little thresholds of the disorder of things that are reduced to dust, these souvenir objects set the past in order, associating condensed motionlessness with far distant voyages into a world that is no more. With Melot's, the dream penetrates so deeply into the past that it seems to attain to a region beyond memory. All these things are far, far away. They no longer exist. They never did exist. The past has lost all recollection of them. Look, seek and wonder, tremble. Already you yourself no longer have a past. Page 245. Meditating upon certain passages of this work, one feels oneself carried away in a sort of antecedence of being, as though into a beyond of dreams.